All right. On the latest episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon, as you can see, I've got my super friends. The Avengers are back. We're going to talk about the top 10 movies of 2020. We will have an hour of fun dialogue. You see all the names there. I'll introduce them in a second. We'll have all that and more on the latest episode of The Big Show. Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. All right, and welcome to the latest episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I am Tim Gordon. Charles Kirkland is riding shotgun with me once again. What's up, Pastor Chuck?
Hey, what's happening, Tim? It's a wonderful holiday we're having, and I'm excited by all the guests we have on the show today.
You know, I noticed that we recorded a show and you switched and moved to a different spot in the house.
Not exactly, but I did. Yes, move a little bit.
It looks neater. Okay, cool. All right, so without any further ado, let me introduce you to these amazing, talented crew that's going to help us through the next hour. Sitting next to me is a woman who I have not seen in months. This friggin' pandemic is killing me. One of my closest friends. I love me some Nell Minow, as they said in The Color Purple. Good Lord knows I do. I love me some Nell Minow. Nell Minow from RogerEbert.com. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Love you too.
All right. Coming from Kansas City is a woman who is making her debut appearance on Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I have not seen this woman since we were at the Critics' Choice Awards. Lonita Cook. How are you, young lady?
I am wonderful. How about you? I'm so happy to be here.
Sister, I'm so glad you came with the big hair today, man. I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
All righty. And then, last but not least, is the man that we simply call Sampson. He has been on this show intermittently for months. He did blow us off about a month ago because he had to go make some beer with his wife, which I mean, if it's an excuse, it's a good one. So, Kevin Sampson, welcome to the show.
What's up, man? And let me tell you, that beer was off the chain. I'm the neighborhood bootlegger.
Now, the blew us off to make beer with his wife, man. I said that's the most original I can't do your show excuse I've ever heard.
I feel like if Lonita's going to have her big hair, I got to have my pandemic hair here.
Oh
here
God,
it comes. It's looking good.
There you go.
All right, gang. So I'm going to start off with before we even kick it off, that this has been such a very different year for all of us in film. And, you know, I talked about this in the last show when we talked about television, of how we've had to sit at home and ingest so much content in a way that, you know, I miss going to movie theaters. I really do. And I know that sentiment, I'm not the only one on this call. But having said that, I've struggled this year to really catch all the movies because, let's be honest, we're lazy, man. We usually we have publicists that would go, okay, we're scheduling you to be in the movies Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You're watching this, that, and that. So I missed that structure because now it feels like we're in the Wild Wild West. Nell's got to find all her movies. Lonita's looking for certain movies. Kevin's doing this thing. I'm trying to find movies that I care about. So there have been some movies that have fallen between the cracks. But having said that, 5 heads are better than 1. So I will lead off with my list, starting with my honorable mentions of my top 10 movies for the year. And my honorable mention, and I know people are going to look at me cross-eyed, Mank is on the honorable mention list. The 24th, Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey, On the Rocks, and Palm Springs are all honorable mentions. And in no particular order, here are my top 10 for 2020. Nomadland leads off. One Night in Miami by Regina King. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Minari. The Five Bloods. The Trial of the Chicago 7. Promising Young Woman. Miss Juneteenth. Pieces of a Woman. And I ended with a film I really liked a lot. And of course, that was Sylvie's Love. All right, Nell Minow, let me hear, if you got some honorable mentions, you can mention those on the front end, but let me hear your top 10 for the year.
Okay, you won't be surprised to hear we've got a lot of overlap there. So I do have honorable mentions. My honorable mentions are Ordinary Love, To Five Bloods, Banana Split, Bill and Ted Face the Music,
What?
Broken Heart Gallery. Will defend any one of these. The Old Guard, The Assistant, Nomadland, and one that I think I may be the only one on the call that's seen it. It's the Canadian entry for Best Foreign Language Film, Antigone. That's
Okay.
my honorable mention.
All right, let me hit this top 10.
Okay. My top 10 is Mank, Miss Juneteenth, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, The Outpost, Palm Springs, Personal History of David Copperfield, Nomadland, and Soul, and The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Wow, I like it, Nell. Go ahead. I knew Nell would come stick. Always got some legal stuff on her. That was good.
Well, I just say, the trial of the Chicago 7, I just want to say, I was a teenager in Chicago when that trial was going on, and we were obsessed with it. Wow. That was our OJ trial. We were obsessed with it. And so it really meant a lot to me to see that film. I'm a lawyer, so obviously I love trial films, but I really thought, and I also am a huge Aaron Sorkin fan, so that one really just sort of hit all my buttons.
All right, Lady Lonita Cook. Let me hear what
All
you
right.
got. Do you have some honorable mentions you want to start with?
I just have one.
Okay.
It would be Dear Santa. I very much enjoyed this documentary about the Postal Service around the country rallying together to make Christmas happen for people. So heart touched. So my top 10 list, and Fatale comes in first at number 10. My Spy, okay, Birds of Prey, Birds of Prey, Jingle Jangle, The Gentleman, His House, The 40-Year-Old Version, Coded Bias, Sonic the Hedgehog, and number one for me was Miss Juneteenth.
All righty, that'll work. So Wilson Morales has joined us. Wilson, we're going through our top 10 list. So Kevin Sampson is going to go next, and you can jump in if you have your list ready. And if you don't, just make up 10 movies, man. You know what we do.
That's what I'll do. I'll make up 10 movies. I got a list, but I don't usually get forced to do 10 right away.
Oh my God.
I got a list though.
You know, you act like I'm asking you to audit somebody's taxes. You a film critic, man.
Yeah, but I'm not there yet. You know, I'm not
All right,
there
well,
with my
good.
top
All
10.
right.
And he releases this really great list, so I know you got him.
Yeah, okay. So Kevin Sampson, do you have any honorable mentions that you want to mention before you go through your top 10?
Yeah, man. I think what you said is absolutely true. Right now, it's like this might change on Monday after I've seen like 5 or 6 more films.
Exactly.
But for now, honorable mention, Tenet, Jingle Jangle, and The Old Guard. I think for all of what Tenet is, it did make me miss being in the movie theater. So those are my honorable mentions.
Stop. Before you start, when you talk about missing being in the movie theater, I watched Wonder Woman 1984 last night. It made me miss being in the theaters, but it wasn't good.
Oh no.
Hey.
I didn't say it was good or not.
About Wonder Woman. I'm dying to talk to you about Wonder Woman.
Oh, yeah. Well, my review was up. I talked to Shannon. Shannon was like, put it up. I was like, so go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah. I'm saying honorable mention. I'm not saying it was good. I'm just saying I love that he shoots for the stars when he comes out, Nolan. All right. In no particular order, my top 10 is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, On the Rocks, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Soul, Wolfwalkers, The Way Back, The Five Bloods, Farewell, Amour, and Nomadland.
Wow, I like. Okay, I see what you did there. Me, you, and Nell, we kind of on the same page. I don't know what Lonita's doing. Lonita's off, man.
I love Lonita's
Man,
list.
Lonita just spinning like.
I'm especially.
Lonita's list got some for the whole family.
It does. and I can't wait to talk to you about Miss Juneteenth, because that's a movie that is so dear to my heart.
And we will in a second. And by the way, Wilson, can you back up out the screen, bro? Thank you. You scared me. You all up on the screen like.
All right.
Wait.
So Wilson Morales.
Wilson, I'm gonna give you a few more minutes to compose your list, and I'll give mine.
Okay,
and then
cool. So Charles Kirkland, give us your top 10, starting with your honorable mentions.
All right. So for my honorable mentions, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, The Five Bloods, His House, and The Invisible Man, which I really enjoyed.
Okay.
My top 10 movies were Nomadland, Miss Juneteenth, Farewell Amore, which I've heard somebody say, Minari, Jingle Jangle, One Night in Miami, Time, Sylvie's Love, and Onward.
Wow, Onward. He stuck Onward in it. I was like, okay, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I like it.
All right, so Lonita is still, that one of these people doesn't belong here. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Lonita, I love you. This is what we do for everybody the first time. Don't worry about it. And now it's time for Black Film TV's Wilson Morales, who not only is on this show every week, he is an Oscarologist. I think that's how they describe it on the Derby. So what's going on, Wilson? Give me your honorable mentions first.
I don't really have it. Okay, honorable mention. I would have Jingle Jangle in here. I have Time, honorable mention. Premature. They came out early this year. That's great. Right.
Yeah.
Bad Boys for Life. It's like, it's got to have one balls out fun movie. One balls out fun movie, and then Wolfwalkers.
I like that one. All right, so let's hear this top 10.
No, this is not in order. This is amongst the top 10.
Right,
I got the 40-year-old version. The Trial of Chicago 7, Sound of Metal. I've got One Night in Miami, Sylvie's Love, which I'll consider a film.
Me too.
There's a Netflix movie called Musso that's out there now. That's produced by the guys who did the Avengers. That's 6. I have The Old Guard. I have got Miss Juneteenth. I've got Ma Rainey and The Way Back.
All right, so the running joke for everybody who don't do this show every week. Wilson interviewed Felicia Rashad about a month ago for Jingle Jangle, and Felicia Rashad kept recommending movies to Wilson. So that one you named, Mossad or whatever it was, you got that.
No, she didn't. No, she didn't mention that. She was recommending. No, she was recommending TV shows.
Oh, okay. I was trying. Okay, look. I was trying to mess with you on that one because I was like, Wilson ain't watched that. He got that from Felicia Rashad.
See, if you start thinking, get out of the box. Musso came out and played at Toronto last year. And it was released this year. It's directed by Matthew Carnahan, who's the brother of Joe Carnahan.
Got it. All right, so we got this panel, man, of people, which is really ironic because we didn't have anybody on for television, and we got everybody on for movies. I want to talk about one movie on everybody's list that people feel really, really passionate about because we got a lot of overlap. I'm going to start with Nell Minow because I always start with Nell Minow. Nell, what's the one movie that's on your list? And it doesn't have to be the best one, but the one that you feel the most passionate about on your list.
Well, I think it would be Miss Juneteenth because, as I said, that movie is very, very dear to my heart, and I'm passionate about it because I feel like it didn't get the recognition that it deserves. Every year at RogerEbert.com, we are invited to pick one performance that we want to write about as the most impactful of the year. And I picked Nicole Beharie in Miss Juneteenth, so I'm just working on that right now. And I've been a fan of hers since American Violet. I just think she's one of the most exquisite performers out there. And in this particular movie, where she plays a former beauty queen whose life hasn't gone the way that she wanted it to, one of the things I'm saying in my write-up about her is, you could watch that movie with the sound off and you would know that character as intimately as you do in the whole movie. Just the way she holds herself, she's still got that beautiful posture, and the interactions with her daughter. I just thought that was such a special, beautiful movie. They always say, and because it's always true, that the more specific something is, the more universal it is. And you can't find a better example than that movie, which is so specific to that town and those people, and yet I think would touch the heart of anybody that watched it.
All right, I agree, and I forgot Nell, and I'm so glad, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, which is why I made my list. I'll talk about my most passionate one because I want to get this in before Wilson or Kevin jump in and steal my thunder. Sylvie's Love to me was a movie. I remember seeing it at the Middleburg Film Fest, and I remember, Nell, you remember we did the panel, and somebody asked me about the same question I'm asking you, and I said the fact that I watched this movie that takes place in the late 1950s, 1960s in Harlem. It's not about race. It's a love story about, with Tessa Thompson, who I love dearly, Nnamdi Asomugha, who I remember was a really good football player, who is a pretty decent actor now. But I guess if you married to Kerry Washington, you pick some stuff up at home. Eugene Ash, the score of it, it's just lush and beautiful, jazzy. The costumes really, really work well. The cinematography in this film is to die for. And then the screenplay itself, here's a young Black woman who grows up loving television and wants to be a television producer and becomes a TV producer in the early 1960s. It's a film and a story that I don't think we've seen enough of our African-American or Black women play that kind of role. And the fact that, again, it's Tessa Thompson. It reminded me a lot of watching Claudine to a certain degree with the love story. So I loved Sylvie's Love. And I'm so glad that Christmas is coming up and people will get an opportunity to see it on Amazon next week. So
question for you though about Sylvie's Love.
Say that again.
I've got a question for you about Sylvie's Love because I was really looking forward to seeing it because I remembered what we talked about when you saw it at Middleburg. And I liked it very, very much for all the reasons that you said. This has been a great year for jazz and movies, by the way. But for me, the most romantic film of the year was The Photograph, which I didn't think got as much attention as it deserved. And there were just a couple of things in Sylvie's Love. I'm sorry, can the man not count that he's surprised that that's his child? That just bothered me. Heather.
Because that's something my significant would say. Nell, that's the way love goes. Didn't you hear Janet Jackson?
Stop. But there were a couple of twists in that movie that just didn't ring true to me. And I also, speaking of The Photograph, which I just want to really push because I really loved it, Rob Morgan, he was my other choice to write up for best performance because Rob Morgan has been in 3 movies this year where he just killed it in all of them. He was my MVP of the year this year, and he just was so great. So that's one of the reasons I love The Photograph. But I just want to say, I really love The Photograph, and I love Sylvie's Love, but not quite as much as The Photograph.
All right, Nell. I mean, I love you. I'm going to let you have that one. Rob Morgan is my MVP because I've told the story on this show plenty of times that at Sundance, the last time I was there, he got me into 3 really good parties in one night. Rob, you the man. If you watching, Rob.
Rob Morgan, of course, a DC native. I mean,
right?
Yeah.
Rob's a good dude,
Did you see him in Bull?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Was he amazing in that? And then he had a small part, but he was amazing in it in Greyhound with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And so in all those 3 movies, he was so different and so great in all of them. So.
All right. So Wilson Morales, I understand that you have a hard out and you're gonna have to leave us shortly. So I'm gonna jump over both Lonita and Kevin and let you guys kind of think about the movies you're passionate about. Wilson, I'm always interested in you because I know it's gonna be a Black film. So which one? You see me leaning in. Look. Which film you most passionate about, brother?
I was going to talk about. I'm just kidding. I was going to try to say film. Now I was going to mention Sylvie's Love, but no sense.
I knew that. That's why I jumped over you.
But I thought about what films did I see and like watching over and over again, and I thought about the 40-year-old version. Rada Blank, and how bold it was for her to tell her story and star in it, and shoot it in black and white, and I happen to be one of the earliest ones to see that movie before it went to Sundance. And I know her, not well enough, but well enough I actually texted and said, through social media, and I said, you got a winner here. This movie sells. It's funny. The characters work. Most of those actors in the movie you haven't seen in other roles. And I think sometimes when you like a movie, if you like the story, everything else is secondary. You know, it doesn't, you know, you don't need a name. So like, I could say Sylvie's Love and Ma Rainey, but when you think about the talent in the movie, Ma Rainey and One Night in Miami, you know what to expect. That's based on a theater play. And you got some talented actor in there. But with Rada Blank, and I've known of her as a writer, but to put herself in there as an actor, and it was so funny. Like there aren't that many films you've seen where it was really funny. You can watch a comedy film, but there's not that many. And I don't think she's a true comedian, but she made it work, and there's a lot of stories that's in there for people of that story, over 40 years old, trying to pivot into a world that most people won't think of, and being a rapper as it is right now. How many rappers at the age of 40 are you paying attention to? That's new. I'm not talking about like Jay-Z, who's been around for 20 years and is now 50. I'm talking about like somebody come into the game at the age of 40. That's rare, and what she did was fun. And I think she's starting to get accolades. She's been nominated for a Gotham Award. She recently won an award over at the New York Film Critics Circle. So like little by little, people are starting to acknowledge what she's done. And I'm looking forward to see what she does next, whether it be as an actor or as a writer.
All right, Wilson, that was pretty good. So now we go out to the Midwest, the heartland. What's going on in Kansas City, Lonita? And what movie are you most passionate about that made your top 10
like
list?
The Hedgehog.
Let me tell you, I'm going to talk about My Spy, because My Spy, I know everybody's like, why is this on the list? My Spy is the last movie that I saw in the theaters with a full audience. And it was a movie that it was an experience. We laughed together. We was like catcalling the screen together. It was like such a theatrical moment, and then bam, it was over. I also enjoy movies that transform what we think an actor is capable of, and what this movie does for Dave Bautista, I think, is really changes our minds about who he can be. And I really enjoyed that aspect of My Spy, and I love, it's my kind of genre, so.
Well,
I'm gonna nominate Best Hype Woman.
Well, you know what I love about what Lonita is bringing to the show today. All of us are kind of in one box. Lonita expands the box. The box feels got some bubbles on the side. Thank you, Lonita. My Spy, huh? You saw everybody in the phone. Everybody eyes glazed over. My Spy.
What?
Wait. Don't go there.
As they say, you go, girl. That's your choice.
I enjoy My Spy.
I enjoyed it too.
It's great Dave Bautista doing The Rock.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, Charles. If Lonita wasn't on here and you said My Spy, everybody in this phone would laugh at you. I'm just telling you.
Sandman will come out like, what?
Right. All right, so watch this. The pressure's on, Kevin Sampson. What you got, brother?
Man, in Lonita's defense, if you look at picturelockshow.com, you can tell when COVID hit, because Sonic the Hedgehog is like the last review that I had, and then it's like not until September that you hear from me again.
Wow.
So, but
look at Wilson's face.
Right. But
Go ahead.
now, see, I think this is the one thing though, in terms of a film that resonates, right? Because like with Sonic, I have a great memory of my son at the end, like the Wiz Khalifa song is playing, and I looked in the theater, I look over, and he's like getting down to it. So we still are playing that song. So that's the thing about film, right? It's like what resonates with you, what speaks to you. And for me, I think On the Rocks is one that speaks to me, kind of more so for current life circumstances. It really, Sofia Coppola explores something that's really nuanced, and to have Rashida Jones and Bill Murray as, the main characters, Bill Murray more so a huge star, right? But at the same time, there's something that feels very simple and intimate about this story. And it really kind of explores those insecurities in marriages after, a couple kids, both getting older, and the communication you have between each other. But the thing that I wasn't expecting was also this exploration of generational baggage that gets passed down to the next generation. And so Bill Murray being this playboy, you can tell that it really kind of ruined the marriage between Rashida Jones' mother and him. Therefore she has these residual effects from it. And so I think there comes a time in your life, if you're lucky enough to live that long, where you do start looking at the generation before you and some of the things that they dealt with that affected you as well. And so, you know, On the Rocks is like one that I think will go under people's radar, but for me, that part really spoke to me. So that's one that I'm passionate about.
All right, that was pretty good. All right, On the Rocks, I like it. And here, and Charles, you know, I'm gonna let you just do what you do, because I know something crazy is about to happen. So what's the movie you feel the most passionate about?
Well, I think we talked about some movies that resonate with us, and everyone who knows me, I think almost everyone who knows me knows my favorite movie of all time is It's a Wonderful Life. I'm a Christmas kind of guy, and so for me, Jingle Jangle is the movie that speaks the most to me, because I love a good Christmas story, and David Talbot got his unlimited budget from Netflix to go out and make this movie. And you got great costumes, you got great music, you got great acting. Madeline Mills is a delight to see as an upcoming actress. Who knew Forrest Whitaker could sing? And it's just beautiful to watch all this happening on the screen. And an African-American Christmas tale that is, you know, can be something that can is a legacy. I was very touched by just the opportunity to experience the film. And I can say, as soon as that film started playing and I see the costumes and the colors and the music, a tear just slowly rolled down my face. I said, this is beautiful. And I enjoy every moment of Jingle Jangle. It means a lot to me.
I want to make a personal statement about Jingle Jangle, which is, the week of the election, when it was still very uncertain and everything was very crazy, if you can put your head back there, I watched it 3 times because I just couldn't stop watching the Jingle Jangle, because everything was so crazy everywhere else. And it just was the best company I could have had during that very difficult time. And then I've been back to see it a couple more times since then. I just love the snowball fight. I love Keegan-Michael Key and his great musical number. He's in 2 musicals this year. And as you said, I mean, in my review, I said, colorful is not a colorful enough word to describe this movie. It's just more all the time. I loved it.
Well, you know, it's funny because, you know, I've told this story on the air that, you know, David E. Talbot is a guy who I've known for a long time. Wilson has probably known him as long as I have. And I remember working at BET about 15 years ago, and he put out, what was it called? First Sunday.
First Sunday.
And they allowed me to run a review where the title of it, because I hated that movie so much, I called it Holy S.
Isn't that the one with Cat Williams in it?
Yes, Cat Williams and Ice Cube.
He was the only thing I liked in the movie.
Oh my God, man, that movie was horrible. And then to watch Baggage Claim, that I actually, you know, introed that one for him and moderated it. So to listen to him talk about Jingle Jangle and how he went to Netflix and he had this idea, and Netflix told him, don't even worry about the budget, man. You just make the movie you want to make, and so it was literally like the first real movie that David E. Talbot ever made, where he had like an unlimited budget. And then I think about The Five Bloods, when Spike Lee had a similar situation that came to Netflix, and Spike said Netflix wouldn't give him the money, which is why, you know, you had to have a cast that had to play like a flashback scene where they played themselves.
There's a difference between getting Scorsese money to digitize those guys and there's Spike Lee like us.
But wait a minute, Wilson. You mean to tell me if David E. Talbot could make Jingle Jangle with that budget, you couldn't have paid for 5 younger Black actors to play?
I loved that they played themselves, because
me too.
Because you're never going to confuse anybody about it. Everybody knows. And I loved it because it was their memories. They were projecting themselves back into it. I love that part, and I wouldn't change a minute.
Now, that's how we had to sell it, because that's what he did. But look now, to this day, we did a show last week where somebody came on the show and was like, man, the Five Bloods, you can miss me with that. They got these guys. They couldn't even have. I said, it's a sticking point. Because the first time I saw it, I went, that's odd. So you couldn't have found, like Nell, I didn't need the five guys to be in the film a long time. Just give me a couple of scenes with some younger actors because.
If you look at Midnight Sky, and you look at how that guy that plays young George Clooney doesn't look anything like him, I didn't think that part worked at all.
Has your Midnight Sky gone up yet? Because I noticed it didn't make either your honorable mention nor your top 10.
I heard you didn't like it. Is that right? Or you did like it?
Oh no, I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
Tim is being diplomatic right now.
Yeah,
Well, put it to you like this. I said I hated Solaris. It was better than Solaris, but not much.
Solaris has grown on me. I don't think this is going to grow.
Solaris, Midnight Sky, Gravity.
Yeah.
All right, I'm waving bye to the people who are leaving my house. All right, so okay, Nell, that was a good point. I mean, and again, out of love for you and having sat next to you for so many years watching movies, I understand your sensibilities. I'm gonna go to Kansas City though with Lonita because the issue that I want to talk about a little bit is we talked about what everybody's passionate about with their films. This year, watching films, you heard my opening statement, to me has just been so off-putting because, you know, in trying to watch these films, they're movies to me, and I had this discussion with a close friend of mine the other day, they're movies that I've gone to the theater and hated that play much better when I watch them at home. And a couple that really jump out is What's the Worst Thing That Could Happen? That was a movie from years ago with Danny DeVito and Martin Lawrence that I hated in theaters. But if it comes on at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm there. I'm like, what you got? AI was another one, the Steven Spielberg film. I hated it in theaters, but it's a movie that emotionally moved. Look at Charles. It's a movie that moves me.
What you talking about?
Is there a movie from 2020, as we're talking about the top movies of the year, is there a movie from 2020 that surprised you when you were able to watch it at home, but what you honestly think it would not have worked if you just saw it on the big screen?
Yeah, that is a good question. You know,
Well, I'll simply say the film that Wilson talked about, 40-Year-Old Virgin. I think 40-Year-Old Virgin is a great movie on Netflix. If that would have been on the big screen,
it's on hard.
I think I would have enjoyed that one better on the big screen personally.
You think so?
I prefer movies on the big screen. I will say I probably would have enjoyed Tenet better on the smaller screen than on the big screen.
Well, we saw Tenet on the big screen, Nell and I, but
yeah, and I think I actually probably would have enjoyed it if I were watching it in the comfort of my home.
But wait a minute, let me jump in for a second, Lonita. We watched it on the big screen, and I don't know if Nell had this issue. I wear glasses. So part of the problem I had with Tenet was that I had a mask on watching the movie. My mask was clogging up, so I couldn't see. And then remember, Nell, the dialogue was kind of murky because there are scenes where they were talking through masks. So we stood around at the end of the movie going, as a group going, what do they say?
I don't wear glasses, and things were, you couldn't understand what they were saying. We don't have to review this film again, but if some things were problematic, yes.
Even at home, I'm trying to watch the screener for it, and I'm turning on closed captions, and it's not working. And I'm just like, what? What did they say?
So the screen caption, the closed caption doesn't work on the app?
No, it wasn't working. No.
But I will say the things that I'm pleasantly surprised about being able to stream in 2020. I've watched. Talk about old movies. Enemy Mine, I watched that one online. Fright Night, I got into that. The Monster Squad.
You talking about Enemy Mine with Lou Gossett?
Yeah,
yes.
Dennis Quaid.
Well, you had a lot of time on your hands in Kansas City, apparently.
You just find out who Lou Gossett is?
Lou Gossett has a baby in that one.
I'm telling you.
You saw Intruder, you wanted to look back into Dennis Quaid's background?
I'm not lying to you. I did a formal review for that movie, for Enemy Mine in 2020. I did that.
Good for you. I want to mention something that was on 2 of the movies on my list that really was meaningful to me this year, and that is, I noticed some of you were surprised that I had the Broken Hearts Gallery on my list, But the Broken Hearts Gallery and the Personal History of David Copperfield, which are both on my list, both had race blind casting that I thought worked exceptionally well. And when I say race blind, they didn't care that a black person had a white parent or a white person had a black parent or whatever. They just said, we're going to find the best people for each of these roles, and we're just going to assume that human beings are going to be able to handle that. And I thought it gave a very fresh and energetic and exciting element to both of those movies.
Interesting. So you get the Lonita and Nell balance, kind of like, okay, from Enemy Mine to Colorblind.
I love Enemy Mine.
I'm loving this show right here. This is
my favorite thing in Enemy Mine, aside from Louis Gossett having a baby, my favorite thing in Enemy Mine is the way that he remembers the names of his ancestors. I just find that incredibly touching.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I heard somebody mention The Old Guard earlier, and it's a film that now when we talk about movies that I think would have played better, I would have loved to have seen The Old Guard in the theater, even though it's a Netflix release.
Oh, yeah.
That fight scene on
would have been
Agreed.
great.
Charlize Theron can sell it, and obviously Gina Prince Bythewood was hired at one point to do a comic book movie for Marvel that didn't come to play, and so she got this one. And you know what everybody can bring to the table is what's the matter whether or not the execution is there, and it was. You know, obviously you're telling the story that nobody really knows about, but Charlize can sell the story, and through Gina's direction, you saw a little bit of everything. You know, you had good fight scenes, you had a good story. You know, it ended off where you can have more sequels after this. You know, I think people are looking forward to see if they do a sequel. I think if they announce it, you know, it's a shame some of these movies that are playing on Netflix can't be seen on the big screen. Like Jingle Jangle would have been great on the big screen.
Absolutely.
Because that production design, you know, it's like, you know, you look at, you know, there's certain movies now that you want to now go back to the big screen. It's not top 10. I recently saw Monster Hunter. And maybe because we've been seeing all these movies play on small screens that look like theatrical and there's not a big cast or the big scope. When you see movies like Jingle Jangle and Old Guard, and even the production, this is where you start valuing production design, you know, and you miss it. And you see now a lot of these movies are not being made because of COVID restrictions and insurance. They can't afford to be in certain locations or bring in a big cast such as extras and so forth, because nobody wants that on their hands. So you're going to see a lot of small movies, you know, being filmed out of Toronto or elsewhere, and you won't get the big design. You know, it's like some of these places are ghost town, you know, London, New York, you know, so like, unless they're getting cheaper restrictions, you know, you're not going to get that. You're going to miss, like even now, like I was talking to somebody who does awards and goes, it's going to be hard pressed to find 5 films in the technical categories.
Right.
You know, you could think of The Midnight Sky because it's like the most recent one, you know, but you look back and like, what else is there? You know, it's, you know, it's like you start thinking about Mank and 40-year version because they're both shot in black and white.
Well, let me ask this question because, and maybe this is a different show for 4 of us on here who lived in this area. Wonder Woman, when you talked about movies that I think would play better in the big theater, I mean, Wonder Woman is definitely a movie that looks better on the screen. But one of my pet peeves, and we've talked about this online, offline, is whenever you shoot movies in Washington, D.C., where they have things that if you live here, you just know. And there is such a huge faux pas that happens in this film that, you know, this story takes place in 1984. So Nell, Kevin, and Charles would know that if you go into a metro system in D.C., the metro of 1984 looks vastly different from the metro of 2020. And when I saw some of those signs hanging, we were like, hey, I didn't have that.
you always get that. You know, you always get people from those cities. You can't be picky because 98% of the audience are like, they don't know this stuff.
One of my favorite memories of seeing a movie with Tim was one that was supposed to take place in Washington.
Along Came a Spider.
What?
Along Came a Spider.
No, it was not Along Came a Spider.
Oh, it's not that one? Okay.
Yeah. And he's going, and they're running around, and every time they would turn a street corner, he's like, now they're in Baltimore, and then it was
That's
so
DC.
funny.
That's Baltimore.
Baltimore. Now they're in Baltimore. Yeah, but that was great. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've talked about this a lot about the mistakes people make about Washington. The other thing is that I can guarantee you, people in the Smithsonian are going to pass out when they see that movie because nobody picks up anything at the Smithsonian without gloves on. Everybody's like handing around these priceless relics to each other.
Oh
it's
my
just
God.
crazy.
No, but I was going to say, Kevin, I don't know if Kevin was at the screening. We saw a screening of Along Came a Spider, and I never forget, it was like 30 of us in a room. And when Morgan Freeman turned down Connecticut and M, and he came around the corner and walked into Union Station, That's not possible.
The worst I ever saw.
Oh my God, man, that's horrible.
Skyscrapers in Washington. We're limited to 15 stories for every building here. And I'm like, where are we? And they'd put skyscrapers in. Yeah, so.
Wilson, you don't have any faux pas like you in New York and y'all see some stuff and you guys go, come on, man, that's not possible.
Well, you could think of, the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 or anything like that. Like, I can't think off the top of my head, but you start thinking about New York movies, like, wait a minute, that, the train don't run this. I could think about the Warriors, like, wait a minute.
Can you just walk on the subway tracks in New York?
Well,
can you go down in the side and walk underneath the subway like that in New York? Have you known anybody who's ever done that?
Wilson, what do you think about, did you see Soul? I thought Soul did a very nice job of portraying New York and of course on the rocks as well. But I liked New York in Soul.
New York Stories, yeah.
Yeah.
It's they captured the lower, I guess the lower East Village they were at one point for Soul, Yeah, I think we're embargoed from saying what we can about the movie so far.
Oh no, we're not embargoed. Reviews are up.
So yeah, so I guess I wasn't paying too much attention to how the New York setting was appeared in that, as opposed to the story and the characters and so forth. Plus, it's an animated film, so like, I'm not looking on that perspective. I think there have been other films shot around New York where people say like, oh, unless it's sci-fi, like.
I hate Wilson so much.
Wilson
is so political, man.
I want to talk about authenticity in films. There's a great movie on Netflix now called Residue that's shot right here in DC, and it is perfect. He got it absolutely right. There's no errors in this.
Well, it's an independent film. He shot it with like one camera. Of course.
Why are you throwing shade on an independent filmmaker, Wilson?
You say they don't got time for no fakery.
I thought Wilson was gonna say he shot it with his cell phone. Of course, it was authentic.
I've got a question for Wilson because I know you are an Oscarologist. How is the weirdness of 2020 going to affect the Oscars? And do you think we're going to somehow have another set of movies in January that will all be the Oscar nominees because they didn't come out this year? What is going to happen?
Absolutely.
Well, you've got a couple of films that's going to come out. You've got The Father. You've got Nomadland, which they're all coming out in 2020. You've got Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yep.
I'm always curious to see, Netflix is going to put out, they're putting out Malcolm and Marie, so while you're getting these early awards now based on 2020 and, like the New York Film Critics Circle just voted, you got Lee Daniels' movie, Billie Holiday and the Faces of the United States, the United States versus Billie Holiday. So those are at least 4, so like at any given point, the tide can turn because there is no box office. Everybody's kind of on the same playing field. You think about films of the past where like First Man, when it came out, it didn't make the money it did, and it just died at the box office, and that was it. It still got the 4 technical nominations, but had it played now, without the talk of box office, you'd say, "Oh, this is a good film. This is a story." People had like part of The Irishman, 3 hours. Everybody's complaining, "Oh, I don't have time to watch it." You would have had time to watch it this year. You had time to watch. You had time to watch. How long is The Five Bloods?
Well, Wilson.
How long is The Five Bloods? The Five Bloods is like over 2.5 hours.
Right.
That you like, people initially complain, I don't want to see a 2.5 hour movie. You got time to watch when you're home and it's Netflix, so like, the movies that are coming out next year, Some of them already had the sight unseen. She's in the race. He's in the race because of the name recognition. I think so far from what I've seen, I think it's coming out this year, Pieces of a Woman. Vanessa Kirby has, I think, the best performance you did not see coming. You know, you say Frances McDormand, she's already in the race without seeing it. You say Viola Davis, she's in without seeing it. You know, no one knew anything about Pieces of a Woman. It does well in Venice. Netflix picks it up because they think they can get her a shot in. And from what people are talking about, she's looking like she's a guaranteed in. Win's a whole different story, but she's looking at like top 5 in. You know, there's certain actors that like, who's going to be that actor that either one deserves one after all this time or surprised you. You know, there's always, you know, at the end of the day, it didn't get the best reviews, but you don't know what Oscar voters, which comprise of a lot of people, may think of Hillbilly Elegy, because people are talking getting close. And you never know how many people are going to like Amy Adams to get in the race. She may not win, but you need 5. So you never know. And like I said, some people behind voters just pick out names because if they're not familiar with a Nicole Bahari, they just pick out like Amy Adams just to kind of complete their list.
I love the look on Lonita's face when you said that. I want to hear.
When he said Hillbilly Elegy?
Yeah, I want to hear what you're thinking.
Well, I just, the idea that someone would not know who Nicole Bahari is, I think, I don't want to use the word intolerable because that's too strong, but she has been around. She's been in 42.
She's not known.
Here's the thing. There's a difference between people who cover TV and people who cover film, and why you can mix them. You know, for some of us, you know, for years, all I do was concentrate a lot on film. You know, it wasn't like I was watching Sleepy Hollow because it aired on Monday nights, and usually at a time when we're out watching screenings. You know, and so like if you didn't watch Sleepy Hollow, you know, 42 was 8 years ago. Outside of 42, where else did you see her at that had that bigger impact that you would say, okay, you know, for a lot of Black actresses, they're not getting those roles on that big national level for you to say, oh, I know who she is, you know, and so like, and she's been gone for a good minute. So I'm not saying she has to prove herself.
She has been gone for a good minute. I mean, and I also, it's not just, I mean, I guess maybe it's a Kansas City thing, but we also looking at who's dating who. And so some of the attachments she's had, I think that she's known. And so the fact that she wouldn't be considered for a movie because she was in television, we know her name, we know her face.
But it also depends on who released Miss Juneteenth. And I spoke to a colleague who spoke to a publicist working that film, and they're not going to put a good amount of campaign because they said they don't have the money.
Wow.
Well,
you know, and there have been plenty of years. Do you remember Ann Dowd? Ann Dowd did a small independent film. And I remember Scott Feinstein, How the Reporter, told her story about how she had to borrow money from her family to put her own campaign because the studio behind her film said the movie didn't make money in the theaters. So why are we going to continue to go be in the red to campaign if we're already at a loss, you know?
But right now, no movies are making money in the theater. So maybe this is a good time to...
What Wilson is saying right now is the difference between the Oscars and the critics. And it seems to me that that is what speaks to what is so critical, so vital about what we do, because we are not based on who's got name recognition, who's dating who I once worked with. You know, I always say the Oscars are like the high school popularity contest. They always vote for the cheerleader and the quarterback. And that's why critics vote for actually who is good. And
look at Roma. Roma walked in with 10 nominations, you know, everybody thought Best Picture, and like what happened at the end of the day, you know, sight unseen, everybody knew The Irishman was going to be nominated. That was a given. The question was, you know, some movies walk in there, and I always kind of use the sports analogy, some movies walk in there like Tiger Woods. Whether it be Frances McDormand, Anthony Hopkins, you know what they can deliver. You know, so you're looking for that performance. Now, is it big enough for them to say, this is game over? You know, not everybody can be Daniel Day-Lewis, where no one had seen Lincoln, and he already was so much far ahead in everybody's list. Without seeing that movie, he eventually won because he still gave a great performance. Other films have to kind of work it and work that marketing and get some sort of viral campaign like last year's Parasite. where, history will tell you no foreign film had won Best Picture. That, obviously reversed that sort of history.
I would love to see Chloe Zhao get a nomination for Nomadland.
Yeah.
So wait a minute, Kevin is sitting over there making faces like I am, so I'm gonna let Kevin go first.
Wait, I'm just listening, man. At the end of the day, like I miss these conversations that we have coming out of the theater, and so I'm just having fun listening. I mean, I will say this: I think Carey Mulligan actually really carried Promising Young Woman. Without her, that film wouldn't work as it did, and I think that would, because of the way that I think the men were they couldn't compete with her in terms of performance. She had like this hard exterior shell, yet you could see the wounded fury that she had within like every delivery of her lines. So that's one of the ones that I think, again, like as Nell said, I think it's really important, the role that we have as critics, to be able to highlight the performances that are seen, that people might miss, and those small stories that are really the stories that should be celebrated.
Agree.
I did that on purpose and muted Wilson because I knew he was gonna go. Go ahead, Wilson.
Before I leave, let me ask you, Kevin. Promising Young Woman was initially supposed to come out in April. Had it come out, would Carey Mulligan be still in the conversation, knowing he had 6 more months of film coming out?
No.
That's the question. Sometimes it's all about timing. Like, it's coming out now, and people are talking about it, but it was initially supposed to go South by Southwest, and then in April, you say, oh, that's good. Would you still be thinking that December, knowing you had 6 more months and you had all these other movies that would have came out?
Yeah.
For all of the misery that we've had this year in every category, I think it has been very democratizing in terms of the films that we see. They're all on the same platform. It's interesting that one of the themes of 2020 was that every movie we saw had the name Nell Minow right across the screen. Isn't that interesting? I don't know why that.
That's funny. Yeah, I had the same situation too.
But I think that movies like the 40-year-old version and Miss Juneteenth will get more attention than they would in a normal year. Partly because we haven't had Marvel sucking all the oxygen out of the room, and we haven't had.
Hey, I miss Marvel sucking all the energy out of the room.
I do too.
I miss big superhero movies.
One last thing, and I want to take off, is you are right, Minnow. You have, because we haven't had big budget production films come out this year, it's given a lot more credence to a lot of independent films. That everybody's on the same playing field. No one has to worry about the box office, because when you see a movie make $1 billion and you see another make 40, no one pays attention to that. So because of all these movies have been on streaming platforms, people have had a chance to see it. So as voters, so you don't have to worry about like everybody's getting 30 movies now to see movies. I was like, oh, I already saw it. I saw it in October. Everybody could see the Trial of Chicago 7. All Netflix has been the benefit of having all these movies play out at the same time. Like Rainey, like, you don't have to worry about like, oh, when I get out of work, we're all home. You're watching. Everybody's seeing it and talking about it at the same time. So like, we're gonna have this for a good period of time. So like, and then once big movies come back out, we're all gonna be happy to go back to the theater. So, but I will be taking off. How much longer are you guys going, Tim?
We've got about 4 more minutes, but I just wanted to tell a story before you got off, that you, me, and Kevin sat down with Dion Taylor at a lunch a couple of weeks ago. And to go back to Lonita's story about, she's surprised that people don't know Nicole Beharie. Hilary Swank, when she signed on to do Fatale, didn't know who Michael Ealy was. Right. He was like, but when she saw him, she was like, man, he's gorgeous. Look at those eyes. And everybody on the call was like, yeah, pretty much. So
yeah, she's out like, I did not know
there's a certain segment of actors that I don't think are known by other actors. Like, I think Megan Good is not known by a lot of people, but everybody black knows Megan Good. Derek Luke.
So what I think I'm hearing is that some of these people are black famous, because when this idea that we wouldn't know who Michael Ealy is, it's just stopping me.
When would Hilary Swank and Michael Ealy's paths cross? The type
Maybe
of
not
movies
as
they make.
individuals, but he has been around forever. When we have these stars who have been around for a long time and they've been over here in music videos, they've been over here in TV, and they have recognition, they are heartthrobs, they need to be on the sexiest man list, or all these things, but you don't know who they are. I'm not saying.
Okay, wait. Let me ask you a question. You're a critic, right? Do you know every critic like that in all these different markets? Like, they are big time critics. Nell may know a lot of them. I know some of them, but I don't know them all. I mean, some of our worlds don't collide.
That's not apples to apples.
Michael Ealy is a major star. He has
I'm
been
trying, y'all. I'm trying.
huge Hollywood. He is one of the best looking men on the planet. Present company.
Nice guy too. Nice guy.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I'm taking it back to film. Not many people are aware as to who Mankiewicz is from Mank, as some of those other characters. So like old school folks are seeing this movie because they know the story of Orson Welles, Citizen Kane, but they don't know who the writer is, and like you got people, but it's being applauded and all of that stuff. And going back to Michael Ealy, it's like for her, like you said, Hilary Swank, like remember, some actors are always working, and they don't find time to see TV. And Michael Ealy, to his part, most of his films have been in Black films, to the point where, like, okay, if she's not a fan of watching these movies, whether they're Will Packer films or whatever, right, where else would he have been known? And not all actors are paying attention. It's just like who's dating who and so forth. He may be a face she recognizes, but maybe not the name, Okay. So, like, we're in a business where we're knowing everything, Actors do not. Like, you'd be surprised how many colleagues I talk to, and I try not to put I have to have a poker face when they're like, oh, they're not aware of this. It's like, oh, I would think that you're in the business, but everybody has different worlds.
All right, gang. We got to wrap it up. That's our hour. Nell Minow, I love you. Please don't be a stranger. Come back. Lonita, please bring back that wacky sensibility you have, because it is wacky. Kevin Sampson, A Phi A, Alpha Phi Alpha. Lean back, brother. Let me see the shirt again. Now, look. A Phi A. There you go.
What is it? December 8th, right?
Oh my God. No, 1906, Cornell.
No, but they're December 8th. No, I'm just kidding with you.
Wow. Such a hater. Charles Copeland, you enjoy yourself. Put a mask on, brother. Remember, COVID is real.
Yeah.
All right. And Wilson Morales, I would tell you to work on your curtain game in 2021, man. Give me something, bro. Change it up for us, man.
He's the only one that hates. Everybody else is there. They love my.
I'm not the only one that hates your curtain. We had a guest on who slammed you about your curtain. Remember that?
It's like,
oh my God.
Gorgeous.
Anyway, I want to thank all you guys. You guys have a happy holiday. These top 10 lists, this show will be online later on, so you can check everybody's list. Please disregard Lonita's list, because she has some stuff on there that was just crazy.
It is the best list.
Whatever. Love you.
I love your list, Lonita.
You guys take
everybody.
care.
Merry
Subscribe to the
Christmas.
show.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.